Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, the High Guy Jacobs. And today we are taking a look at one of the brand new heroes coming out that everyone is anticipating. The one with the secret weapon. The one with the super weapon, pardon me. Ethan from Mission Impossible. He's a shadow hitman. Ethan. Oh boy, this game is hilarious. Alright, but we are going to take a look at this, folks, ladies and gentlemen. And we are going to dive deep into what the, obviously what the super weapon does, as well as all of his skills do. And kind of get a first read and a first look at what Ethan is going to be bringing to the table. Now, at first glance, as I'm going to tell you, I think he's going to be pretty meta-changing. Obviously, you're going to start to see him in the higher G rating categories as we read his skills. I think you'll see why. He really shines when we start to get into the garrison role. As you can see, he does have that garrison skill, or that garrison talent tree. But he also comes complete with the skills and range squad talent tree as well. So, he is going to be pumping out a ton of damage, and obviously defending pretty well as well. So let's go through his abilities. We're going to go through his skills at max. Then we're going to talk about his super weapon, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about his transcended skills as well, because they're going to change those skills once you transcend them as well. Okay? And I realize I've said as well about a dozen times, but you're probably going to hear me say it a couple more, so get used to it. That being said, let's go into number one, folks. We got all shots fired, a rage skill requiring 1,000 rage as per the usual, where we're dealing damage up to 3 enemies to a total of 1,350 damage in a fan-shaped area in front. Damage taken by each enemy reduces by 15% for each additional enemy target. That's pretty standard or typical for AoE damage. However, for every enemy target hit, you gain 1 stack of gunfire. If garrisoned, for every enemy target hit, gain 2 stacks of gunfire instead. And for every 10 stacks of gunfire gained, increases ranged squad attack by 10%. So you're going to see this, and we will go over this as it's written versus what I think it's going to do after talking to some of the people who know a little bit better than me. We'll go through a little bit of both. So first and foremost, we're dealing a decent amount of damage. Obviously, AoE is great. If you're garrisoning, you're starting to stack those gunfires a lot quicker. And if you're garrisoned, for example, in a tower getting, getting multi-rallied, you're bringing up 6 stacks every skill, which means that you're going to be ramping up your squad attack and your additional damage pretty quickly. And then obviously you'll see how that works out with his gunfire stacks. Next, we've got Gunfight Tactics, which is a passive skill. We're going to increase ranged squad attack by 42%. That's a nice chunk. Counterattacks have a 20% chance to grant a stack of gunfire. So again, just another way to end up getting more gunfire. Okay, some more of those gunfire stacks so that we're increasing more of that ranged squad attack. Next, we've got Tactical Deployment. A passive skill increases ranged HP by 36% and reduces squad skill damage taken by 13% when garrisoned. So here's a situation where he's obviously going to shine when he's garrisoned because he's providing a ton of HP, and then obviously that damage reduction is going to fully survive or help him with the survivability inside the tower as well. Now I want you to remember this skill here, Tactical Deployment, because I was mentioned and shown something that might actually influence how he works later in the game. So we'll take a look at that. Just remember Tactical Deployment, okay? Next, we've got Hunter Spirit. Again, a passive skill increasing range defense by 38%. And then if garrisoned, reduces all damage taken by 10% for 1 minute after entering battle. Now, I'll be honest with you, when I was looking at 1 minute, it doesn't really seem like much. And this is really going to, be something that you're going to have to kind of focus on, strategically. But after listening to a couple other YouTubers, and a couple of other people in the community, this 1 minute is actually going to be pretty influential, especially when you're talking about reducing all damage taken for the first 10% for the first 1 minute, which is going to be enough to pretty much get your defense kind of on the roll, and get your garrison, kind of in a head start, if you will, in regards to the defense. So this is actually kind of interesting. This 1 minute here as well is pretty okay. I mean, obviously, you'll have to see how the strategy plays off, whether you'll have to do what's called chain rallying, where you're going to continue the rally so that the tower is never not in battle, which would, thereby effectively negate this. But there's going to be something. But I mean, even you're getting 38% on your defense, which is crazy. So if you think about it right now, you're getting, if you're garrisoned, you're getting 36% HP, 38% defense, and then you're stacking this squad attack very, very quickly, right? So looking back at him, I mean, we've gone through his 4 stats, and you can already start to see where he's going to shine. Really, he's going to really shine in garrison. Though he does still have some play outside of that. I mean, he is still increasing your range squad attacks by 42% here. He is increasing your counterattacks. That's going to be happening either way. Your defense here is going to be happening either way. Your damage here is going to be happening either way. Stacking up your original gunfire is going to be happening either way. So he's still going to have some use in the field, but obviously he's going to really shine when you get into garrison. And then when you look at what happens when he awakens. So Killer Instinct, this is a brand new passive skill. So it increases the damage of AoE skills by 18%, which by itself is pretty incredible since all of his damage is AoE. And then at 30 stacks of gunfire, removes all gunfire stacks to deal up to 3 enemy damage in a circular area at another additional 13,500. So as fast as he's stacking up gunfire, he's going to be blasting it off to do additional damage. Now, I originally thought that this would, because this ability is stacked to his awaken skill, which effectively you need to awaken in order to get benefits from. I've been told that it's basically going to, until you have him awakened, it's basically going to stack gunfire until you get to 30 stacks, and then it's going to clear it off and then restack from there, so that it's not stacking infinitely. Because I honestly thought the way that it's written, there's nothing to take the gunfire stacks away until you awaken him, which means to me that just means that his attack is going to run up infinitely. But I have been assured that that's not going to be the case, that he'll just run up stacks to 30 and then clear those stacks to 0. And so you won't get the true abilities, you won't get the true damage until you end up getting that, until you end up getting him awakened. Sorry guys, need to take a sip of coffee. Now let's look at his death casket. So basic attacks have a 25% chance to deal damage to the current target to a total of 27,500 and gain a stack of gunfire. So another way to start stacking that gunfire, and if garrison gains 2 stacks of gunfire's effect, and get 2 stacks of gunfire instead, and then can only be triggered once every 4 seconds. So it's basically just an additional punch of damage that's going to be coming in at an additional 27,000 or 2,750 once you have it fully awakened, or once you have it fully, once you have his super weapon fully awakened. But the true beast here is going to be what happens once you transcend his skills, because once you transcend his skills, if you look at the difference here. Let's see here. Once you look at the difference here, you start to see some big differences. So first off, we've got dealing 13,500 in a fan-shaped area in front to 15, gaining 1 stack, gaining 2 stacks of garrison, and then obviously increasing that range squad attack by 10%. Once we go to max stats, you start to see that he's now dealing 14,750 in a fan-shaped area, reducing by 15%. That's typical. For every enemy hit, gaining 1 stack of gunfire. Also recovers self HP by 2,000, so now he's got a heal factor. And further increases the heal factor by an additional 50 per gunfire stack. So if you were to have an additional 20 gunfire stack, that's an additional 2,100, or 20... No, 50 times 20 is an additional 1,000, right? So that's a heal factor of 3,000 based on your gunfire stacks. And that's not even fully stacked, right? So he starts to get a nice little heal factor. But here's where it starts to get interesting. If garrison deals damage to up to 4 enemies in a circular area instead, and gains 2 stacks of gunfire for enemy hit. Okay? So basically, if he's garrisoned, he's now going to, instead of doing 3 damage, he's going to be dealing it to 4 damage. 4 targets in a circular area instead of 3 targets in a fan-shaped area. So this is why he's going to start to really shine when you start to put him in garrison. Then if we look at what he gets here next, this original one gets a 42% to his 18 or 42% to his squad attack. So his range squad attack, and then counterattacks have a 20% chance to grant gunfire. Once you have it transcended, increases range squad attack by 49% and gives you a 30% chance to stack gunfire. So now he's stacking gunfire much quicker, and he's punching a little bit harder. Okay. If we look at the next one, increases, this is the one I want you guys to remember, tactical development, increases range squad HP by 11% and reduces squad skill damage taken by 4 when garrisoned. So as this is written, this all is connected to him being garrisoned, okay? Getting that 36% HP and that 13% reduction in skill damage is tied to him being garrisoned. Watch what happens when we go ahead and awaken that. Increases range squad HP by 43%, period. So this basically means that this HP is no longer tied to him garrisoned. This is now just a flat passive skill, which, I mean, if you ask me, makes him a lot more usable in field, because now he'll have attack in the field, HP in the field, defense in the field. He becomes pretty useful all over the place. Okay, and then you get that skill damage are taken when garrison, skill damage are taken down to 17 or up to 17% instead of 13%. So you're getting a nice boost to that squad skill damage taken reduction, which obviously makes them a little bit more survivable. Next, when we look at this one here, Hunter Spirit, we're getting that 38% defense. If garrisoned, reduces all damage taken by 10% for 1 minute after entering battle. This now becomes 45% to your defense and then reduces all damage taken by 15% for 2 minutes. So it doubles that whole minute that from entering battle, and then increases that damage to 15%. So basically, even if you're fighting with this guy in the field, you're getting a consistent defense buff, consistent HP buff once he's transcended, consistent attack buff that and his gunfire charges that makes him hit even harder, and he's AoE, and he boosts AoE when he's transcended or when he's awakened, right? So before he gets transcending, he does 18%. Once he's awakened, once he's transcended, he increases the damage of AoE skills by an additional 9%, so 27% total. And then we start to see a little bit more of this damage. So now the damage goes up to 14,000. At 30 stacks of gunfire, removes all gunfire stacks and deals damage up to 3 enemies in a circular area at 14,000. No reduction here. And then a recovery of HP by 40,000. And then if garrison, reduces the amount of stacks required to 25. So now he's pulling off abilities more often if he's garrisoned. So he's going to have a ton of capabilities. He's going to have a ton of abilities. And truth be told, even when it comes to both of these heroes, him and Sophie being released, I'm shocked when it comes to both of them. I'm quite speechless. They're definitely going to be ones that are going to reset the meta yet again. This puts ranged back on top, in my opinion. They're going to have pretty much no problems crushing pretty much where they need to. They already do really well in leading rallies, and now they're going to have a decent garrison behind them as well. So it's going to make them much harder to deal with both in the field and in the game. That being said, folks, that is it for Ethan. I don't know what else to say. Once he's transcended, he's a monster. I think he'll still be quite usable. Outside of that, you'll still see him. You'll still see him in the lower, or in the high, mid G ranks a little bit. I'm just glad I won't have to deal with him transcended quite yet, because there's nobody in my G that spends that much quite yet. So I'm glad I won't have to deal with him. At the present moment, I've got a lot of growing up to do before I can do that. So let's just hope that IGG listens to the community and slows down a little bit, because this barrage of content, though fun, is really kind of negative, is really kind of hindering the entire growth experience. There's just so much to get caught up on, and now you have these 2 new heroes that basically put any of the other heroes that we've been spending a lot to level up to shame. So at the end of the day, it hurts, and it's going to be interesting to see him in the action. I'm obviously not going to give him a ranking, because it depends on what you want to do with him. But just understand that this is a hero that I assume quite heavily the top players will be getting quite quickly and pushing to transcend as quick as they can, because from what I read and from what the paper says, he looks pretty good, and someone that you're going to obviously want if you're a range main. So any range main out there, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Everybody else, good luck, and good luck in anything else you want to try to do. So, but if you did like what you saw, guys, this is it. Thanks so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to fill out the notification bell so you get any new drops when we drop new content. We've got a Pompeii replay every Tuesday. and then a Who TF Are You podcast every Wednesday. And then obviously we've got new content that's going to be dropping here in the new year. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, folks, love, peace, chicken grease, and until next time, stay lifted.